Excellent. Thank you. I think everyone's coming into the webinar. But good afternoon and welcome to our Exploring Agritourism for Australian Growers webinar. For those that don't know me, I'm Lucy Gregg, the General Manager at AUSVEG for Public Affairs and Communications. With interest in unique tourism experiences on the rise, this 1 hour webinar is designed for growers to explore how agritourism can diversify farm income streams, maximise farm assets, create value-adding opportunities and build stronger community connections. Whether it's farm stays or tours, pick your own models, retail outlets or tourism partnerships, agritourism offers a growing opportunity to diversify and future-proof your farm. Today we'll look at current demand, popular experiences, key considerations, and we'll also hear firsthand from a grower case study as well. We'll finish with a Q&A session, so please pop your questions in the Q&A at any time and we'll answer those at the end. First off today, we have Kate Schilling, who's the Project Manager for Agritourism at Tourism Australia. Kate brings over 25 years experience working with regional operators in accommodation, hospitality, heritage, nature, food and farm-based tourism. She's passionate about connecting people and creating innovative tourism experiences that resonate with today's travellers. Kate will share some insights into the national agritourism landscape and current trends shaping the sector. Next we'll hear from Anna Terry, owner of the Truffle Farm in Tasmania. Anna has helped pioneer the truffle industry in Australia, championing agritourism excellence and advocating for industry growth. With decades of experience in farming, production and export, she continues her family's legacy through innovation and passion. Anna will share her personal journey, including the challenges, rewards and lessons learned from running a thriving agritourism business. And then finally we'll hear from Alison Clark, who is an associate at RMCG and co-founder of Agritourism Tasmania. Alison spearheaded the award-winning Opening the Gate program, supporting more than 65 farmers to diversify into agritourism, and has since worked with almost 150 businesses. Her work has recently been recognised with the 2025 Tasmanian Regional Development Australia Award for Partnerships and Collaboration. Alison will guide us through the practical steps and key considerations for starting your own agritourism venture. So without any hesitation, I'll hand over to Kate Schilling. Thank you, Kate.
Thanks so much, Lucy. Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me? Yep, great. Fantastic. So thank you very much, AUSVEG, for this opportunity to have a chat to you today and set the scene ahead of Anna and Alison talking about agritourism and the opportunity it represents for growers all around Australia. I suspect a lot of you are already in tourism, even if you don't realise that you are, because you're welcoming guests and visitors onto your farms, whether it's friends and families, buyers and sellers, and all the technical people that come onto your farm. You're still welcoming them and offering them an insight into how you're growing what you're growing, and elevating what really is the everyday for you into an experience. So I work for Tourism Australia on the Agritourism project 3 days a week. I do it on Wiradjuri country. I'm based 60 k's out of Wagga on the road to Gundagai. And I'm currently sitting near the sale yards in Young because I've been at an agritourism summit in Orange, where I think a couple of you were definitely in the room exploring the opportunity. So the project with Tourism Australia has been going since November 2023, but it was based on a business case and insights that had come out of all of this consumer research from travellers, where they were from Sydney, Singapore, San Francisco. There's this growing appetite, if you'll pardon the pun, for travellers. They really want to travel and learn more about where their food comes from. They want to show their kids that milk comes from cows, not from coals. They want to really get an understanding about what life on the land is like. So we knew that there was this growing appetite from the consumer end, and we started looking at what was happening from the operator side. So these are the categories that we draw on when we tried to size up the industry. There's over 6,000 operators who are tagged agritourism in the tourism world. They cross different categories, but they're really growing, and state by state, there's been some real growth. Particularly, I'm going to shout out to New South Wales, who loosened up their planning regulations in early 2023. But you can see the categories are there. There's been growth year on year in the number of operators that are part of it. And even though not all operators are on farm, they still play a role in advocating for getting people onto the farms to have these experiences. Every state has their strengths, and every state is really super excited about picking up their agritourism operators and helping them along on their tourism journey, as we say. There's I know you guys have your export markets and have all the terminology around how you sell what you're growing. We have that in tourism too. So for us, every state is developing their agritourism based on the strengths, whether it's through on-farm experiences, events, getting their tour operators into the mix, farm stays and so on. So there's a lot going on. And for you as growers, if you are looking or already running experiences, I'd really invite you to start looking around to see where your tourism experts are in your region, in your state and so on, because there's a hell of a lot of them out there. So of course, we're bringing together the agriculture and the tourism sectors, two mighty sectors coming together to really start to grow what's happening at grassroots there. There's a whole range of different sectors within agritourism that we are starting to focus on. I've been in the project for 18 months, and whether it's, there's all sorts of different ones. I actually might just jump to my big fat spreadsheet because it really tells this story in a different way. But when we're looking at what we're building on in October 2022, the Australian Regional Tourism had worked really closely with the National Farmers Federation and all the states and the different bodies to start to put together a strategic framework under which the states and the regions could start to develop their strategies for how they wanted to grow agritourism in their areas. But at the end of the day, agritourism, when it comes down to a definition, it's about what's happening on farm. So it's experiences, it's connecting people to produce and product, but these experiences are delivered through a direct on-farm opportunity and product there. So they've got solid endorsement, and it's been developed since then. When I started the project, I'm like, okay, well, that's all well and good. We know we've got a lot of operators. We know not all of them are on farm, but they are still playing a role in driving visitors onto the farm. But from a paddock to plate point of view, what have we got there? What's on the plate? And this was where this spreadsheet came about. I grow, every time I go out on the road, I add a different piece of produce, something that's growing onto this spreadsheet to show what is Australia's famous for. And I'm here to say that Australia's famous for growing lots of different things. There's over 100 products on this list. And I guess for me, it's really around, trying to corral this so we can put it into marketing channels, whether that's social media, the website with australia.com, and again, but creating content that can then be lifted by all the distribution part of the tourism system. For me, I guess there's lots of different places that when I was thinking about AUSVEG, you fit into lots of different categories on this list. And we're looking forward to seeing what we can do to start helping everyone work together to create different regions that have some strengths, because there is a halo effect. 40% of the agritourism operators are on farm, but the 60% that are outside that, they're showcasing the quality and the diversity of what you're growing on your farm in unique off-farm settings. So it plays a role there. And really we see what's happening in driving people to your farm. At Tourism Australia, we think when we look at the consumers, we call them the high value travellers, they first engage with what you're doing on your farm when they get to a city, because there'll be a restaurant there that's showcasing what you're growing. There'll be different retail and providores and different events that are really bringing together everything that's happening on your farm. We see that the role that the city guys play in inspiring people to go further into region. They'll hit a country town. This is where a lot of the distilleries and breweries sit. But there's restaurants, there's tour operators, there's a whole lot of operators here who are there to really showcase what's growing around that country town, and then take them to where the rubber really hits the road here on farm with these different types of experiences. And I know that Anna and Alison are going to speak a little bit in a minute about those types of experiences that are there and on offer. They're everything from just basic introductions to what you're growing to full-on immersions where people are staying, going on tours with the farmers, then, you know, picking and producing different things from what's growing. So there's lots of ways that that is all coming together. And this is the whole part of this makes up the agritourism ecosystem. I do think that there's lots of research. I wish there's a bit of an update that wasn't quite ready to present today, but just to know that we know that foodies are interested in farm experiences, and this foodie sector, however you want to define it, is really solid and is really interested in exploring more about what you're growing on your farm. And that can be at a basic level, it can be at a pick your own into a full-on cooking school, stay on site, and so on. So there's lots of different ways that it works. We've identified different regions amongst the 6,000 operators where we have a pretty well-rounded range of experiences, and we are starting to highlight and elevate the regions where we have depth. And look at what, I won't go into depth on these pillars because I'll run out of time, but we are looking for those operators who are fully bookable in a tourism sense to those that are not. We can include everyone in the story that is ecotourism and agritourism in your region. We just want to be able to pull it all together. We'd rather look at rather than one farm by farm and elevating up each specific experience, we want to showcase the region and look at the depth of experiences, the depth of stuff that's growing there, the diversity, and what's in season and in region at any particular time. So there's a lot to grow there and a lot for us to build on as tourism marketers. So we're really about looking at connecting those what you're exporting with our inbound markets. We're about highlighting the seasonality there. It's a really important part of what you do, we know, and we think that's a real opportunity to grow, and it's something that makes us pretty thrilled, and we think that the future looks bright. Whether you're veggie growers, as you guys are, we're looking at all sorts of sectors because we know that there's an opportunity. You've got produce that you're selling, you've also got stories that you're telling, and we think that it's all going to come together into a fantastic way forward that I think for those, as I mentioned at the beginning, there is a lot of enthusiasm from tourism professionals near you. So I'd invite you, as you're working within your own sector there with AUSVEG, start to look outside that to think, okay, where are the tourism professionals who can help me open up access onto my farm? And I'll wrap it up there. Thank you. How do I stop?
Excellent. Thank you so much, Kate. That's wonderful. Now I'll ask Anna.
Thanks, Lucy. Yeah, thanks for that, Kate. That was really interesting seeing your stats there. I am Anna. I'm from the truffle farm down in Tasmania, and we're actually the first truffle farm in Australia. My parents were the pioneers of the truffle industry, and I've been very lucky. I've been around truffles for pretty much as long as I can remember now. Crawling around in the dirt with my old man, and I like to think I've become more useful as time has gone on. He may suggest otherwise. But today, I guess, talking to you guys a little bit about how we sort of crept into that agritourism space and how that's evolved for us as well. And particularly, I would say that is now the main crux of our business. That is our main income stream, is that tourism space. It was never the intention to be that, but it is very much been that organic growth that has happened over time, and very sort of, I guess, passive as well. And we have learned a lot along the way. But I actually took my first truffle tour when I was just 13 years old. I'm 32 now, so quite opportunistic. I used to linger down the bottom of the driveway where one of our truffle plantations was on the weekends, and my father and I actually made an appearance on Landline back in 2004, and from that there would be the occasional vehicle that would get curious and drop into the farm, and they would look over the fence at those truffle trees. And on my weekends, if I was in the right place at the right time with a good looking dog, I would usually be able to lure them in and do a $10 exchange and take them for a little walk, and basically just an excuse to show off my truffle dogs that I was training and very, very proud of at the time. So I guess if we go right back to the start, that's where it all began. But since then has been a very organic growth. It was probably when I was around 18, I was managing all of our international export. Now back then, truffles weren't very well domestically known at all. So our only option really was to move our product overseas. And that's basically what we did for about 5 years. We had no domestic demand really. The local chefing school actually called up and said, can we bring some students out? And I thought, well, I don't know what I'm going to show them, but sure, bring them out. I'll come up with something. And they came out, and off the back of that, that's where the seed was planted a little bit, that maybe there's a bit of interest in this. And it was very much just, my brain was thinking, well, just chefs and just cooks and people that know what the product is. And so from that point, we sort of started doing little tours here and there. And then as time's gone on and people have become more invested in wanting experiences and wanting to know where their product comes from, it has just sort of very organically grown in that respect for us. We've tried to do that as well, I guess, slowly, in ensuring that we maintain, I guess, ultimately, first and foremost, and this would be my advice to anybody, is that first and foremost, you are an operating farm true to what your product is, and that you prioritise the farm over that tourism, because that's how you create an authentic experience. If you just sort of try and off the bat and go, hey, we just want to make this a tourism venture, you're going to lose the magic. And that's what people want. They want to see the real stuff. And that's something that I try, and sometimes I even try to cover up some of the stuff that's a little bit too real that happens on the farm. When you are working with dogs, it can be unpredictable and things can happen and go pear-shaped. But I think in a world where everything, through technology or in most senses is very, a perfect world, people are chasing something more than that. So they're not necessarily after the most perfect experience. They really want those stories and to hear the hard yards that have happened behind your business or what you do, and see how things really take place, I guess. So that would be probably one of my main bits of advice, is to primarily focus on doing what you need to do to maintain your farming operations and your primary industry there, and then work the tourism around that. And that is how, I guess, those best organic experiences will come forward. But yeah, it has been, I used to have a little sign that I would hook up down on the letterbox at the driveway and just do 2 people at a time, to now we have a full online booking system, a farm gate shop, and permanent signage and things like that to welcome visitors 7 days a week. So it certainly has transitioned. We've come a long way from those very small beginnings, but I think in doing those little bits here and there, that little bit of groundwork, where it wasn't overly productive or I guess profitable for me to take a tour for 2 people to take them out hunting, but it's just ironing out those creases for yourself, understanding what the demand is for, and then being able to sort of present where you think that demand and what I guess the general public or travellers are chasing. But very much, I think something I try and really encompass here is very much just that authentic farming experience, and rather than every single tour I take is completely different, because it's not a polished, refined set process. It's very much authentic. We've got weather to deal with. We've got all sorts of things that is what farmers have to deal with, as you all would know. There's things that can really change your crop in an instant. Some bad weather, some not enough rain, irrigation blowouts, all these things can happen. And rather than letting that be a factor as to why you shouldn't have a crack at that tourism thing, you'll actually probably start to find that that's what people find really fascinating and interesting, that they're our everyday kind of problems and things that pop up and challenge us. And you think about people from the inner cities. I've had people on farm that haven't ever really dug in the dirt before. They've been in apartment buildings their whole life, and getting them down and getting them in the dirt, they're just so perplexed that my hands look like this all the time, that they're always filthy. Like it's that genuine, genuine. They want to see real Aussies living their real lives and doing exactly what they do. So that would be like my main, I guess, advice for anybody who's wanting to dabble, and you can just start with whatever you've got the capacity for. You don't have to be straight in as a full-on tourism operation, I guess. You can just, you know, do those little bits here and there that you have capacity for and feel it out and see what happens and see how it grows. But certainly for me here in Tassie, I've been very lucky. There's a lot of other great producers around me, and then as well, great tourism sector here too, that have been absolutely vital in sort of helping us get to the point that we have, giving us little bits of exposure and opportunities to come forward, but relying on your other growers around you as well, letting them know what you're doing, letting other, you know, other tourism sectors, even like the local accommodation near us and the visitor centre and restaurants and things. I actually in the early days invited them all to come out to farm and see how things work, so that they can sort of see what we do and what I'm trying to achieve here. And you get your community on board, and if any of you are in a sort of a country town like mine, that's invaluable as well. So yeah, I'm very, very lucky. The Deloraine and Meander Valley community have been wonderful, and Tassie in general. But yeah, just keep true to what you do. And yeah, I know for me personally, I would sooner pay $100 more to go and meet a farmer who's been farming carrots for his whole life and can tell me stories about his grandpa than a bloke who's just bought a carrot farm and wants to offer me a perfect polished experience. It's that the magic happens in the producers and those stories. And yeah, I hope that what I have said today helps somebody. But yeah, if there are any questions, please feel free. I don't know if we're doing that after Lucy or now, but I can answer anything now if anyone did have anything burning. But yeah, that's probably it from me.
Excellent. Thank you, Anna. And Anna, I understand, has to dash off now because she does have a busload of international tourists. So Anna is actually living the dream here and now. But Anna, if there are any questions, I might reach out to you afterwards. But thank you very much for your time today, and sharing your story with us. It's fantastic.
No, well, thank you very much for having me, and I'm sorry I do have to dash off. I want to hear what Alison has to say, but I will, yeah, I will hopefully, if there are any questions, Lucy, let me know, and I can, yeah, follow those up later.
Lovely. That's fantastic. Thanks, Anna. See you.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
And next up, we've got Alison Clark. Thank you very much, Alison.
Thanks, and thanks, AUSVEG, for putting this session together. It's great to have Kate and Anna involved, and just quietly letting you know that I am doing this from Sydney Airport, and I have found a quiet place. At least I think I've found a quiet place, and please excuse any noise in the background. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the pros and cons of what to think about when it comes to agritourism. I know that some of you are already doing some agritourism things, and some of you might be exploring the idea of getting into agritourism. So I'm going to touch on, to start off with, some of the things to think about if you were going to go down the road of diversification in that space. And then later on, I'll give you some applied examples of some of the things I've seen working really well and not so well. So Alex is going to progress my slides for me. So a little bit about me. Yes, I'm the co-founder of Agritourism Tasmania. I've been working with in the farming community now for decades, and quite a bit of that was actually in the vegetable sector, and prior to that, orcharding. So some of my stories will come from that space. A lot of tours that I did on farm, and they sort of changed and evolved over time depending on the group that we had coming in. But more recently, over the last 5 years, I've done a lot of work in particularly around business specialist development programs around agritourism. Some of those have been start-up, and then some of those have been helping existing operators to grow and evolve. Down here in Tassie, we're actually looking at how we can start to bring agritourism operators together and have a little bit more of a peak body. As Kate said, the industry sector down here sort of spans agriculture and tourism, And it's this lovely little sort of ecosystem in the middle. But what we are doing is looking for ways that we can start to advocate a little bit more, particularly in some states where regulation can be a bit of a hiccup for some people looking to diversify. The other thing we do down here is cluster development, and as I mentioned, regulatory reform. And also, if any of you are interested, while I'm thinking about it, the Global Agritourism Network is a great thing to get around. Aside from the forum that Kate's been at this week, and the Agritourism conference that will be held later this year in Adelaide in October, you can stay in contact with some great education materials free of charge through the Agritourism Network, and it's a great thing to stay in contact with. So Alex, can you pop over to the next one for me? So keeping it really simple. One of the things that a colleague and I, Rose Wright from Regionality, worked on was really trying to make sure that anybody that was thinking about agritourism sort of nailed these ingredients. It's this combination of people, products, place, and their passion. So anybody that's coming in to enjoy an experience of agritourism is really looking for you and your story. What makes you unique? At the end of the day, you can actually have a whole range of farmers doing the same thing in the same community, whether it's dairy farming or cropping, vegetables. But what makes you really, really unique is the ability for you to tell your story. You know, how long you've been farming, the special way you farm, why you love what you do, how you prepare the vegetables, all of those things. Anybody that's coming to enjoy an agritourism experience really wants to know that. And that is what, at the end of the day, makes you unique. So you can have a couple of vegetable growers in the same locale, and potentially collaborating to build a bit of a tasting trail. And you can really do that in a great way to bring people into your community, even if you're a little bit isolated and out of the way. So it really does pay to think about these 4 ingredients and how you can actually bring that to life. So one of the things, if you are thinking about agritourism, Alex, if you can pop over to the next slide for me, is some of these things that really, over about 6 steps that I'm going to talk to you about, are really necessary for you to think about. Because at the end of the day, as Anna said, agritourism largely is about bringing people into your farm and your home. It's actually your personal landscape. And so you really need to assess for yourself and your farm whether it's actually something that you want to do. It is a multiplier. It's been proven to be a multiplier of your farm productivity and revenue as it comes into your farming enterprise and even your local community, as Kate said. But you really need to think about some of these questions around, do you like people, and have you actually got enough time to get into agritourism? Do you have the resources and the energy to actually do it? And what quality of produce do you produce? And I'll get into one of those examples a bit further down the track. The other thing you need to start thinking about is your land zone. New South Wales has done some great reforms over recent years, making it easy for farmers to get into agritourism. But there are other states like mine in Tassie where it's still a little bit problematic. We're still trying to unpick what a right of use is for a farmer who wants to actually bring visitors on farm. Farm accommodation, farm events, all sorts of things can be a little bit limited by the land zoning you're in and how that might be interpreted by local government. And some of the other things that you need to think about also are your neighbours. In some cases, some of you might be lucky to have quite a distance between neighbours. In other cases, they might be just over the road or just down the road on a really windy road. So some of the things that you need to think about are, well, what is my neighbour going to think about this, and how comfortable is that going to make me and them if I bring more people into this space? And as Kate said, and Anna, getting to know the visitor economy is something that you really start to have to get involved with. It's who do you know, and that could be part of your local regional tourism organisation or destination authority. And they can talk to you a little bit more about the types of visitors that are actually coming into your region or looking for products and experiences. And when you know that a little bit more, you can start to work out the type of agritourism experience that you might want to develop and evolve. Or if you're already doing something, something else that you might be able to get into because it makes sense for the type of consumer that's coming into your region. And next one, thanks, Alex. And here's a few other tips and tricks that we've learned along the way. There's lots of examples of people going down the road of agritourism, starting something and then getting caught up in something that they really don't understand. Can take time and can take a lot of money. And so if you know people in your area that are already in agritourism or have started, don't be afraid to go and ask them questions. Seek some advice. Have a think about the sorts of things that they might be doing that can be complementary if you start. And think also about whether there's an impact on your insurance if you do want to get involved. Some of the things that we're starting to see across the country are different impacts from the way that insurers think about their farming packages with farmers and where agritourism fits in. Some insurers don't really understand that, and yet you can also find brokers that are really starting to get their head around it. So if you find you're starting to get questions about what you're thinking about, or comments from people already in agritourism and talking to you about insurance impacts, reach out to, again, either your regional tourism organisation, somebody like me, or ART, Australian Regional Tourism, and we can potentially put you in contact with a few people that can help answer any questions that you might have. And that includes with the local planning scheme. So some of the states that are really interested in developing agritourism as a driver for the growth of their regions are starting to develop some agritourism guides. New South Wales has some, Tasmania has some. You can also follow the regional tourism strategy framework and some of their resources that can help you think about the steps that you can go through to start an agritourism business. And they're really, really helpful. And what they do for you is they actually break it down into the right order in some cases, and also provide you again with some tips and tricks and things to think about that you might not have anticipated. And the last thing I'll talk to you about here is the concept of test and trial. So Anna was quite right when she said, starting small can be a great thing. A lot of farmers, as you know, have some of the best landscapes in the country that people are really interested in walking on. And sometimes people will come to you and say, you could spend a lot of money here and people will come. But it's not always the case of how do you actually make money out of that? Because you might not be able to resource it, you might not be able to get the labour you need, you might not be able to get water to where you want the water to go. If you test and trial something, do it in a small way. You can train your team, you can work out whether it's something that you want to do, and you can do it in a way that's really, really cost effective and then grow and develop from there. So we'd encourage anybody that's thinking about getting into agritourism to test and trial. And even if you've got an existing product or experience and you want to tack something else onto it, like a long table event or some sort of music in the spinach field, maybe not that because you squash the spinach, but anything that you might want to think about. There are little ways that you can test and trial those that can make it really cost effective. Thanks, Sally. Change that next slide. So I mentioned the myriad of the regulatory environment that you might need to walk through. Now, as I said, New South Wales have got some great examples of how they've undertaken some planning reform. Tasmania has some fact sheets out, as well as a regulatory toolkit that can help you. Think in advance about looking at the planning schemes and having a look at those toolkits before you go and seek advice or ask questions. Sometimes the questions that you ask at your local government authority or your local council, you might find, depending on who you talk to, that you get a no answer really quickly, where if you'd actually asked the question in a different way, you might have actually got a yes answer. So it pays to really think about what the planning scheme is telling you can do in your particular area, and then go and, again, maybe go and seek some open question opportunities with another agritourism operator or even your regional tourism organisation to see if they've got any things that they can do from their experience and knowledge that can help you walk through that local government planning environment in the best way possible. Next one, thanks, Alex. Okay, some little things that I've learnt along the way. Biosecurity, it's an ever-present risk, particularly if you're in vegetable farming, not knowing where people have driven their cars, but equally not knowing where they've moved their shoes is something that you really need to think about. One of the operators that I work with in Tasmania had an issue last year where their livestock started to die from unexpected reasons. They did some work on getting some of their pasture tested, and they realised that what was actually happening to them is they had a biosecurity problem where somebody had brought something on their shoes onto their farm, and then as people were walking through their farm to have a look at their products and experiences, they were actually walking that biosecurity disease through the paddocks, and the livestock was eating it, and that created the issue for them. So what they've had to do is shut down some paddocks, and they've had to think a little bit about where they put foot bars and different things so that they can still have those products and experiences for visitors when they come to farm. They haven't shut down their agritourism operation, but they're really thinking now biosecurity first. So it's something that it really is an ever-present risk. Yesterday I was in Adelaide. There was a biosecurity outbreak in northwest Tasmania. First of its kind in Australia. And so as I was going to experience some opportunities to talk with farmers in South Australia, we had to absolutely rethink about where I'd been and what I was doing, because you just don't know when these issues will come up. Next one's around health and safety. So you all know as farmers the legal obligations that you have. What you need to think about when you get into agritourism is to really test and trial what you think people are likely to do. Now, I love sheep and I love people, but what you've got to work out and think about is every visitor that comes to your farm, you've got to think about them in terms of, well, where will sheep run? Because that is likely to be what will happen with visitors when they come. Visitors are all sorts of people. Some are really, really curious and they're extroverts, and some are much more simple and easier to tame. But you've really got to think about when you have people coming onto your farm, where they're likely to walk, what they're likely to do, and test and trial that again with somebody who probably hasn't been to your farm for a while, and get them to think about your product and experience and watch what they do. And that will give you the best opportunity to think about your health and safety. And don't forget food safety at the same time. The next one is, are you suited to be an agritourism operator? Not everybody is. And you need to ask yourself, do you like people and would you like to spend more time around them? There is an operator that I work with who's a really, really lovely individual one-on-one. But as soon as he sees a visitor come up to his oyster farm to buy his oysters, I can see the growly look on his face, because basically he thinks they're interrupting his day. So there's a real sort of opportunity to think about, well, are you suited to this agritourism opportunity? And if it's not you, but you still want to actually bring those experiences to life, maybe find and train one of your family members or another team member. Next one, Alex. Street appeal, really, really important. Here's a great example of a farm down in the Dandenongs, Trello. Really engaging from the moment you come in. Lots of great vegetable products and local produce, and opportunities for people to see how you can actually use those vegetables through some ready to take home cooked products. It's only a small shop front, if you like. It doesn't need to be that great, but it is really engaging from the get-go, and it does call you in. I've been to the complete opposite, where there are some farmers that are looking to do agritourism products and experiences, and I've quietly talked to them about how you need to declutter everything from your front gate to the angry dog, because you can't even get into the gate to experience the product. You've just got so many issues to deal with. So really think about that street appeal and the attraction that you make for consumers from the get-go. A working farm. A lot of you understand what's going on, but will you visitor? So here you can see a drum muster sort of experience on farm, where farmers are actually, they've had their drums collected and they're getting them taken away for drum muster. But consumers will look at this and go, well, why are you applying so many chemicals? Another example I can give you is letting visitors know in advance the type of working farm that you have. I ran an event last weekend on farm. Farmer was a livestock producer. He had rabbits, goats, and sheep and beef, and he also had a market garden. This was the first time that he'd opened up his farm. He had a food event, and he was talking about the reality of he just started lambing, and there were some eagles overhead, and clearly those eagles were looking for some lambs to take away. And a couple of people stood up and walked away. And so that's fine. You know, as consumers, we can all get up and walk away from something that we aren't happy hearing about. But if you let people know in advance that you are a working farm and what likely to experience, they can do the sense check for themselves before they get to you. Expect the unexpected and plan for it. Years ago, I was running an agritourism part of a farming business in the south of Tasmania. That business was actually, the bathrooms were quite close to the farmer's home. The farmer's wife went into their home about 3/4 of the way through the tour event just to pick up something, and found two strangers walking through their house and looking through their cupboards. So what you have to think about is all of the areas of your property and the proximity of that to your agritourism product and experience, because people that walk inside your farm gate will think that they've got the privilege of your whole farm and your whole farm experience. So you need to plan for the unexpected. You need to know your risk areas, and you need to tell people from the get-go where they can't go. Alex, thanks. Target your audience. Kate, as Kate said earlier, there are a lot of people that will come and experience agritourism products and experiences. But at the end of the day, you know, if you don't want young children, well, then you need to be able to tell that as part of your story and explain it in a really, really positive way in terms of the type of product experience that you have on show. And storytelling is a key way that you can start to have the target audience that you're looking for come to you. And make sure that experience is one that's built to suit your story and your farm, and don't overpromise and under-deliver. You know, there's many times that people will go away and drop a Google review that you will never recover from. So think about that experience and make sure that it's tailored to what you're doing. You know, whether it's an experience at a long table or a technical tour, just make sure it speaks the language you want it to, and make it bookable. So as Anna said, you know, when you make something bookable, you control who, when and how visitors will be on your farm, and that's a really important thing to do. Thanks, Alex. And just be consistent. You know, at the end of the day, communicate your season and the hours of operation through multiple channels. You know, some people will look at your website. More often than not, some people are going to look at your Facebook page. If you don't keep either of those up to date, it won't be that great for you, and word will soon get out that you're never open, or you don't tell people when you're not. Make sure you're open at regular times. Think about weekends and when people are travelling. Communicate when the weather conditions or other conditions aren't great. You know, it might have been that it rained, you know, about a week ago, and if you're lucky enough, you got a lot of it. You know, telling people don't come in your white sneakers. You know, if you're coming to a farm and it's going to be a little bit muddy, you can do that through your Facebook or how you communicate with them when they book a ticket. Communicate your closings and when products available, and know what days and times are the slowest, and determine when the best time is spent in your agritourism operations, or the best time for you on your farm. And you'll find that blend that actually really works for you. Thanks, Alex. You'll get this coming across to you. I'm conscious of time. So here's a couple of things that have, through research, have proven to actually highlight what can actually contribute to your success. But some of the things are: make sure you train and manage your employees effectively, make sure you effectively promote your story, and provide excellent customer service. At the end of the day, if you've got people coming to your farm for an agritourism product or experience, don't forget to offer them a toilet. I have been to an agritourism experience where there were no toilets available. The experience was for 2 hours and they expected you to pick up the toilet at the next stop you went to. So you do need to think about what it is that you would like to experience if you were away on an agritourism experience of your own. and be willing to accept a little bit of damage because people will move in different spaces. Thanks, Alex. So that's me. I'm open to any questions that you may have at any time. Agritourism Tasmania will talk to you a little bit more about what we're doing. Reach out to me on this email address, and if you've got any questions, I'm more than happy to answer those. Thanks, Lucy.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Alison. That was very in-depth and insightful. So lots to think about there. And we are going to take some questions now if anyone's got any questions. But I know just from previously, Jill was asking a question to Anna, and I'm sure that probably Kate or Alison can answer it. But is there any specific upskilling or training that Anna might have done or wish she'd done that to diversify into this? And Alison, I think you've run training courses.
Do you want to go first, Kate?
Yes, only that I know you're going to be able to answer that really well. Yes, every state offers a different, I guess, series of whether it's workshops or a pathway through the tourism process of development. In New South Wales, it's called New South Wales First. Victoria has a mentorship program. Every state has something really different. And even at a regional level, there's often a lot of different programs. But Tassie, I'll leave Alison to speak about the Tassie program because it was a bit of a landmark in the agritourism world, particularly when Tas identified agritourism as a sector.
Yeah, thanks, Kate. So Kate's right. One of the first things you have to do is learn how to speak tourism because it is such a diverse and different industry sector, and you have to work out what are the tools that actually help you enable your agritourism business. So some of those are, online booking tools and how that might integrate with website, getting yourself on ATDW, which is sort of a data warehouse where everybody finds you as an agritourism operator in your region. So getting to understand how tourism works is really important, and the regional tourism organisations in each state are a great way to do that. They're always running training courses. So you can understand a little bit more about who's coming into your region, who the target audience can be for you, what are the things that you need to know in terms of updates that the tourism industry is doing. Other things that we did in Tasmania, though, to help farmers, and we still continue to do that, and you will find these programs in other states like New South Wales and Queensland through organisations like Regionality, like the Tilma Group. You've also in Queensland, you have their agritourism peak body up there, Agritourism Queensland. There are programs that can help you learn how to be an operator and understand how to combine that with your farming business, how to price products appropriately, how to actually create an experience that doesn't interrupt your day-to-day farming operation but actually complements it. The sorts of things that you need to do to make a tourism product of quality and that's safe. So those are the sorts of things that, again, looking for either the regional tourism organisation or the peak body in your state can help you actually upskill so that you can start to develop the product, make sure it's working profitably and effectively for you. It appeals to consumers and people can find you because you're actually inside the tourism system.
Excellent. And a question here, do you think composting toilets are acceptable? What's the general consensus?
Short answer is yes. Kate?
What was the question? Sorry, a tractor just went past. What was the question?
Are composting toilets acceptable?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. And the other thing I think just in relation to the last question is for those of you that may not think, just want to dip your toe in and not be 24/7 all at once is don't forget the role of if you're in a region where there's a tour operator who can facilitate, taking the bookings and talking to the customers. Like Anna's just gone to look after a busload of people who've come to the truffle farm. They came through a tour operator. And so there's often in your region, and I know, say in the Sunshine Coast, There's some really great tour operators who they know the farmers and they know the seasonality and so on. So they'll be able to have those conversations as a kind of a filter, I guess, for what you can do. But yeah, as far as the loos goes, compost loos are fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And it comes down to how you talk about your product and experience. And
Yeah.
there are a lot of consumers or tourists that are actually looking for off-the-grid type experiences. So,
Yeah.
just pop me in a pod somewhere with a great view, and I don't mind if it doesn't have electricity because I just want to turn off. And going back to what Kate's just talked about, Anna's been great at this. There's also a tasting trail up in her region that she's part of. But equally, there's some great examples of where farmers have come together with somebody that's a bit further down the track, like Anna, and they've created these little community-based tourism pockets of agritourism products. There's a great example in the Cold River Valley that grows vegetables as well as fruit and wine, where there's a mushroom grower, a walnut grower, a couple of wineries. They've all got together and they've created this little mini tour experience that can be dialed into from tourism operators. So there's all sorts of things you can do when you come together. And so even if you only want somebody on your space for an hour and they're just going to stand in the spinach field, that's fine. People love it because it can be combined with something else that creates this really great food experience that they can enjoy when they get back on the boat or at the next restaurant they go to.
Excellent. Thank you, Alison. And for Kate and Alison, are you aware of any grants or similar available for people at the moment around agritourism?
I guess there's always different opportunities that come through all levels of government. I guess my view is if you're going to wait to get a grant, like don't just wait for the grant to activate it. Like it's generally they're matched funding. Generally, there's all sorts of things. So I like what Anna said about, just start small and have a crack at what you're doing rather than wait for that full-on grant because it's often based on elections. It's often based on all sorts of things. So I wouldn't be waiting to launch into agritourism just based on government grants.
Yeah, I agree with Kate. A lot of my time is actually spent talking with operators who are looking for either loan funds or grant opportunities, and you can't time your activity when you want to start around that. Start small, test and trial. If a grant opportunity comes up, that's great. Particularly if you've tested and tried, because you've almost got a business case that's shovel ready for what you want to do. To answer that question as well, yes, there are some grants that have just been announced in Western Australia. There are some loan schemes, low interest loan schemes, particularly for younger farmers that are interested in getting into farming or diversifying what they're doing. In some states, there are also tourism loan schemes, but they can be a little bit problematic. I mean, grants, for example, they're treated from a tax perspective differently. You might have some co-contribution obligations that you have to meet, some acquittal requirements that you have to meet, and sometimes you've got to sit through 1 or 2 caretaker periods just to be able to get the grant program itself approved and then come out the other side and find yourself in a situation which one farmer I know has worked through, and they've in fact given half the money back because they had to wait for the funds to come out of the pipeline, and by the time they did and they were ready to build, the value of the dollar for dollar basically meant he had to invest $7 to get the dollar return out of the government grant program. So for him, it actually became something that was completely ineffective. It cost him money, and he chose in the end to give the funds back. So it's an eyes wide open type of thing. And occasionally, right time, right place, right grant does pop up. But as Kate said, don't base your business model on it. You need to be really clear when you look at your agritourism product development that it's really going to make money for you.
Fantastic. I don't have any other questions unless anyone else has one. But I think Alex is going to put a QR code up there to thank everyone for participating. And if you would like to learn more about agritourism, or if you would like to put your name down for an agritourism study tour, then please scan the code. Oh, now there's a question up here, and it says...
And can I just, oh, sorry, Lucy, one thing other, because Alison referenced it, and I had forgotten to include it in my presentation. I can't believe it. We have a National Agritourism Forum on the 14th. We're holding it on the 14th of October. It's one of a series that started back in 2022. It's the day before the Australian Regional Tourism Convention, but it'll be in the Adelaide Hills in Harndorf, and it's going to be a lot of case studies. And yeah, we want it to make it really relatable to farmers. So 14th of October, and I can send you through the links and so on, Lucy, for you to pass on to the gang.
Right.
And Lucy,
yes, so
there's one more quick question there, and something else I'll mention too. If you're a person under 40 and you want to go on an agritourism tour to Scotland, the Global Agritourism in Scotland is open next year, and there are currently 100 sponsorships open for people to apply for, and those applications close on the 25th of August. So if you're interested in an agritourism trip to Scotland and getting sponsored, go and have a look at that because there's some scholarships available. Somebody asked the question around ATDW. It's Australian Tourism Data Warehouse. It's a really clunky name. Basically, it's the way, when you go and Google, where do I stay, what do I do? The way you become visible on that is to be registered into the ATDW system. Kate, do you want to explain that in more detail?
Yeah, it's a system. It's owned by all the states and TA. You're, again, pushing a lot of your regional tourism managers and so on will be champions of getting you into ATDW and making sure your product surfaces. If you want to be featured in a campaign by any of the states or anyone, you have to have jumped through those hoops. But it's, yeah, the functionality is being improved all the time, and definitely we're looking at tagging. We get a lot of our data from there. So it's home base for tourism, and it's something that even in your visitor information centres in your towns, they will know all about ATDW and how to get in there.
Excellent, fantastic. So I've just got one final question before we wrap up, and is if anyone wants any more details about the conference in October in Adelaide or in Scotland next year, just scan the QR code and we can send those details and links. But one question for Kate. Her data showed farm stays were lower than other stays. Is that because there is less available or less interest?
Sorry, I'm in the, every time I get a question, it's in traffic. What was the beginning bit?
Your data showed farm stays were lower than other stays. Is that because there's less available or less interest?
No, it was a quick, I toyed with which graph to show you. Farm stays are the most. Farm stays are 23% of all the ag tourism operators. They represent 23%. So it's what makes up that farm stay category that's really interesting, because it's everything from station stays in WA to glamping sites in Queensland, cottages on site, specific tiny houses, a whole series of cabins and tiny houses. But farm stays is often a really easy way to get into agritourism. I would invite you, though, if you've got a cottage or something on your farm and you want to open it up to visitors, be around to tell them the story. Like, a farm stay without the experience for me is it's half done. And I think that we can see from the farm stays around the country where there's a meet and greet from the farmer and a bit of a tour or a walk around or an explanation about what's growing, it becomes a richer experience that you can charge more for, frankly. So as a revenue raiser, it's definitely an easy way in, but think about the experience and the touring as well.
Fantastic, excellent. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Alison, Kate and Anna, and thank everyone else for joining the session today. We will make the presentation available, yeah, it's great to have people who are so insightful and know so much knowledge about agritourism, and I'm quite sure it has inspired some of our people on the webinar today. So thank you.